The heavy ferry cuts through the thick, gray fog over the ocean. Inside the dark cabin, a man bends over the sink, looking terribly sick. He stares at his tired face in the mirror. He mutters to himself, trying to pull it together. He splashes cold water on his face, trying to clear his dizzy mind. Another man walks in holding a jacket. The sick man puts on his coat and hat, stepping out into the cold sea air. He looks out at the vast, unsettling sea. His companion asks if he is okay. The man admits he just cannot stomach the water. They officially introduce themselves. The sick man is Teddy Daniels. His new partner is Chuck All, coming all the way from Seattle. Chuck casually asks Teddy if he has a girl back home. Teddy gets quiet and says he was married. Memories of his beautiful wife suddenly flash in his mind. He remembers her smiling sweetly, tying his tie. He reveals that she died. 4 people died in a tragic apartment fire, but the smoke got her first. Teddy searches for his cigarettes and Chuck offers him one. They smoke on the deck as they approach their destination. Teddy mentions they are heading to a mental hospital for the criminally insane. The dark, ominous shape of Shutter Island finally appears in the distance. The ship's captain sternly warns them about the incoming storm. Armed guards wait for them at the damp dock. Deputy Warden McPherson greets them with a very serious face. Teddy notices the guards are heavily armed and extremely tense. McPherson agrees, saying everyone is on edge right now. They drive through the island's dense, gloomy woods. Teddy spots a highly electrified perimeter fence. The massive red brick gates of the facility open slowly. The guards demand the marshals surrender their firearms immediately. Teddy argues, but eventually gives up his weapon to comply with the strict rules. They enter the heavily guarded compound, seeing patients working outside. McPherson explains they only take the most dangerous, damaged patients. A female patient suddenly makes a creepy shushing gesture at Teddy. They meet Dr. Cawley in his grand old office. Cawley explains his modern, humane approach to treating violent psychotics. Teddy bluntly asks about the escaped patient. Cawley says Rachel Solando drowned all 3 of her children. She still believes her kids are alive and the hospital is her home. Teddy is shocked to learn she vanished from a locked cell without her shoes. They inspect Rachel's sparse, empty room. Teddy finds a hidden piece of paper under a loose floorboard. The mysterious note reads, "The Law of 4, who is 67. Dr. Cawley claims he has no idea what it means. Teddy demands the personnel files of all the medical staff. Cawley refuses, only agreeing to let them interview the nurses. Teddy and Chuck search the treacherous rocky coastline. McPherson says the cliffs are covered in poison ivy and jagged rocks. Teddy notices an old lighthouse sitting out in the water. During staff interviews, Teddy learns Rachel's primary doctor just left for a vacation. Teddy finds it absolutely absurd that they let him leave during a lockdown. The violent storm destroys the phone lines, trapping them on the island. That night, Teddy and Chuck meet Dr. Naring in Cawley's mansion. Naring calls them men of violence, making Teddy very defensive. Teddy flashes back to his painful time as a soldier liberating Dachau. He remembers the frozen bodies of innocent people scattered in the white snow. He watched a German officer slowly bleed to death. Teddy demands the staff files again, but Naring flatly refuses. Teddy loses his temper, threatening to bring in Hoover's men. Back in their quarters, Teddy admits to Chuck he has a secret motive. He suffers a terrible nightmare where his dead wife Dolores speaks to him. She turns to ash in his arms, telling him the man who killed her is still here. Teddy wakes up in a cold sweat. The next day, Teddy interviews a violent patient named Peter Breen. Breen says terrible things, triggering Teddy's deep anger. Teddy aggressively presses his pencil into his notebook, taunting Breen. Breen completely snaps and attacks Teddy, forcing the orderlies to drag him away. Another patient, Mrs. Kearns, seems perfectly normal. She asks Chuck for water just to get him out of the room. While Chuck is gone, she hastily writes "run" in Teddy's notepad. Outside, the storm upgrades into a massive hurricane. Teddy and Chuck take shelter in a creepy flooded mausoleum. Teddy finally tells Chuck the real reason he took this case. Andrew Lettuce, the firebug who killed his wife, is locked up in Ward C. Teddy strongly believes the hospital is running illegal mind control experiments. Chuck starts to suspect they were lured to the island on purpose. They return to the main building in dry clothes. Dr. Cawley suddenly announces Rachel Solando has been found. Teddy meets the newly found Rachel, who is completely delusional. She thinks Teddy is her dead husband, Jim, crying in his arms. Then she snaps, realizing he isn't Jim, and screams hysterically. Teddy is hit by a blinding, agonizing migraine. Cawley gives him pills, and Teddy passes out. He dreams of Lettuce, a man with a scarred face, lighting a match. The dream shifts to a horrifying vision of a woman and bloody children. He wakes up to find the hurricane has knocked out the backup generators. The electric fences are down, and the most dangerous patients are loose. Teddy and Chuck use the chaos to infiltrate Ward C. The place is a terrifying labyrinth of screaming madmen. A bald patient jumps out, attacking them in the dark corridor. Teddy easily beats the man down, leaving him injured on the floor. Teddy sneaks deeper into the dark corridors, lighting matches to see. He finds a battered, scarred man locked in a gloomy cell. It is George Noyce. Noyce looks terrified. He blames Teddy for his current miserable state. Noyce tells Teddy that everything is a sick game designed specifically for him. He warns Teddy not to trust his partner Chuck. Noyce says they are going to take him to the lighthouse to cut his brain. Teddy swears to get him out, but his mind is spinning. Teddy reunites with Chuck, and they head toward the lighthouse. Chuck thinks it is a trap, but Teddy refuses to turn back. They argue loudly on the edge of the dangerous cliff. Teddy decides to climb down the treacherous rocks alone. He makes his way down, searching for a safe path across the water. When he looks down, he sees Chuck's body floating lifelessly in the crashing waves. Panicking, Teddy scrambles down to the wet shoreline. But when he gets there, Chuck's body is magically gone. Instead, he finds hundreds of nasty rats crawling out of the rocks. Teddy spots a fire glowing faintly inside a small cave. Inside the cave, he finds a woman holding a sharp knife. She claims to be the real Dr. Rachel Solando. She says the hospital is using psychotropic drugs to create untraceable spies. She tells Teddy they have been secretly drugging him through his food. She warns him that the lighthouse is where they perform the surgeries. Teddy leaves the cave, determined to expose the twisted truth. He gets a ride back with the warden, who speaks chillingly about violence. Teddy sneaks back into the main building to find Chuck. Dr. Cawley casually mentions that Teddy came to the island alone. Teddy realizes he is trapped, surrounded by dangerous lies. He attacks Dr. Naring and knocks him unconscious to escape. Teddy blows up Cawley's car as a fiery distraction. He makes a desperate run for the towering lighthouse. He dives into the freezing ocean, swimming toward the mysterious tower. He overpowers the guard at the entrance and takes his rifle. Teddy storms up the spiral staircase, ready for a bloody fight. He kicks open the door at the top, expecting a horrible operating room. Instead, he finds Dr. Cawley calmly waiting for him. Cawley reveals that Teddy's gun is just a plastic toy. The harsh, unbelievable truth is finally laid bare. Teddy is actually Andrew Ledettis, the 67th patient of Ashacliff. Edward Daniels is just an anagram of Andrew Ledettis. Chuck walks in, revealing he is actually Dr. Sheehan, Andrew's psychiatrist. Andrew's fragile reality completely shatters. Cawley forces Andrew to remember his tragic, real past. Andrew comes home from work to find his manic, depressive wife sitting by the lake. She tells him the children are in school, but it is Saturday. Andrew looks at the lake and sees his 3 children floating dead in the water. He dives in screaming, desperately trying to save them, but it is too late. He pulls their lifeless bodies onto the grass. His wife Dolores, smiling insanely, says they can dry them off and have a picnic. Unable to bear the horror, Andrew shoots her in the stomach. The overwhelming guilt broke his mind, causing him to invent the hero persona. Andrew breaks down in tears, finally accepting his true identity. The next morning, Andrew sits on the steps with Dr. Sheehan. He looks at Sheehan and calls him Chuck, saying they need to get off the island. Sheehan looks at the guards and slowly shakes his head. Before walking away, Andrew asks Sheehan a final profound question. Which would be worse, to live as a monster? Andrew stands up and calmly walks toward the orderlies to be lobotomized. He chooses to die as Teddy Daniels, rather than live with the memory of Andrew Ledettis. The dark lighthouse stands tall as the credits roll.